And we're live.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ellie Mitchell, and I am the Vice Chair of the Pillar 4 Advisory Board. My co-chair, Chandra, is on the phone and will introduce herself in a minute. We are excited that we have a new board member today. And so what I would love to do is to have each member of the Pillar 4 Advisory Board, as well as the AIB member and AIB staff who are on today, introduce themselves. So let's go around. Who wants to go first?
Hi, everyone. Dawn Jacobs Martin, Pillar 4 member, and currently associate professor at University of Maryland.
Jaden?
Hi, everyone.
Oh, good.
Whoop.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chandra Krantz. I'm the vice chair for Pillar 4 Advisory. I'm sorry I can't be in person or visual with you. I'm driving to an appointment, but I'm here.
Hi, I'm Jaden Ferris. I'm the student member. Happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joseph Manko. I work as the education program officer for the ABLE Foundation, and I'm also one of the board members for the Accountability and Implementation Board. And then prior to that, I was a elementary school principal in Baltimore City for 10 years.
Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Armstrong, the policy analyst for equitable sports for the AIB.
Nice to meet you, Lisa. And Hope, our new member.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hope McGuire. I am presently program manager in Montgomery County Public Schools in the Office of Student Engagement, Behavior, Health, and Academics. And what that does is I'm the liaison between our school district and DHHS and the rec department with our school-based programs that help with mental health supports, along with after-school activities. And in my prior experience, not only have I been a 4th and 5th grade teacher, an assistant principal, I also have worked in the Title I office in Baltimore County Public Schools before this, and just returned back 2 years ago from the state of Georgia, where I was the director of federal programs for Clark County School District, Athens, Georgia. And so I'm just happy to be here and to bring my experience. And personally, I am the mother of 2 that graduated from high schools in Maryland. And so good to see the work that we'll be doing around the blueprint.
Well, welcome, Hope. We're really happy that you helped round out with such an amazing set of experiences that will really be valuable to this pillar and to this advisory board. So we're very happy to have you. So we're going to have Lisa give us some updates from the AIB.
Absolutely. Okay. So piggybacking off of the introduction of our new member, Hope, the advisory committee selections headed by member Manko and member Doss looked at applications for vacancies across pillars 2, 3, and 4, and student member vacancies on pillars 1 and 2. And so 5 new members were selected. And to give you a brief background, snapshot on those selections and applicants, 70% of the members selected are women, and that was the majority proportion of applications submitted. Approximately 40% of members selected are African American, 40% are multiracial, and 20% are Asian. And overall, 22% of applicants did not report some of the optional data that was requested. And for pillar, trying to get the breakdown here. For the regional breakdown of the selections. 2 are from the Baltimore area. And 2 are from the central area. And is the other area here? I can't. Documents. Give me 1 second. The other area. Okay, and 2 are from the northern area. And there was not a significant change across race and ethnicity of the members. And of course, for this committee, we are losing 1 member in Alazar. I'm saying the name right. And Hope is the new member in that position. We also had our regular board meeting, the meeting of the 7 members. And the meeting went very well. And then, as you mentioned earlier, just this afternoon, we had the meeting for the outcomes measure work group, where there was a wonderful presentation from Dr. Tolson around equity considerations attached to each pillar, and Member Manko will review, give a high level overview of his considerations for pillar 4. And that is the update from the AIB.
Thank you, Lisa. So what we were thinking about for today's meeting, and timing is just a little bit off because meetings collapse upon meetings in the world of blueprint implementation and AIB, is that we really want this advisory board to take a look at, weigh in on, and discuss the proposed outcomes and measures for Pillar 4. And it sounds like we're getting close to being able to do that. And Joe, Member Manko, was in the meeting prior to this meeting, the Outcomes and Measurements Work Group. So we'll hear a little bit from Joe, but hopefully before our November meeting, date to be determined around the Thanksgiving holiday, we will be able to weigh in on these a little bit more after we've reviewed them and had the chance to really think about them more from all of our lenses here in the Pillar 4 Advisory Board. We have expertise in all the areas. So Joe, please share with us where things are looking on the Outcomes and Measurements Work Group, and things we might want to think about as we're reading through the drafts that will be made available in the future.
Sure, absolutely. Can I share screen?
I believe that would be Lisa, ability, or whoever's running the Zoom.
Yes. Hold on.
Member Manko, you're good.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks,
So
Wanda.
I'm just trying to share some of the slides that were presented earlier today at the meeting. So, just to a caveat, like these are not my slides that I prepared. So I want to give credit to Emma Pellerin, who helped to put this all together. And then also just a little forgiveness or some grace ahead of time, because I don't have as high level of familiarity. I was just, I was in the meeting when these were presented earlier, but I think these will be pertinent to the discussion. All right, so let me. Okay, can people see that all right? Yeah. Okay, so the outcome measures work group began meeting in February, and there were 10 public work group meetings. We more or less met every other week from starting in February and going to July. So there were 10 public work group meetings, and across those 10 meetings, we went through and identified first outcomes and outputs, and across all 5 of the blueprint pillars, and then also outcome measures at the blueprint level. So this was like the kind of overarching outcome measures. And the way we distinguish these is outcome measures we looked at as you can see here, indicators of the implementation and delivery of the strategies, and then outputs as indicators of the results and benefits. So we went through and were able to classify a variety of measures as either outcomes or outputs, and worked with the committee to identify, based on the blueprint, what are the high level measures that we want to track and set goals around. Some of these are more qualitative in nature, some are more quantitative in nature, and then the next step at this point is to look at all of these measures that were identified, and for one, try to figure out if we have data points that we can collect around these, or if there are new data points that need to be either recalibrated or new data points that need to be created, and then what the process would be for doing that and how we would go about tracking them. So let's see, I'm going to go kind of scream through this. When the AIB met to review all of the work from the outcome measures work group, they went through and examined all the measures that were recommended. There were some slight modifications and additions that were made. So these are additional output and outcome measures that came from that meeting. So, eventually we want to get the full list to you, but I think some additional things in Pillar 4 that were added once this got to the AIB in order to discuss and see if there were additional things that were added. So here's some of the additional elements that were added. So one was in Pillar 4, disaggregating specific existing outcome and output measures by students enrolled in and teachers working in community schools where appropriate. Number of families and neighbors who volunteer at community schools. So like this would be an example of an outcome or output measure that was added, but there is not currently consistent data collection measures around this. So this would be an example of an element where there would need to be some new apparatus that would need to be established in order to collect this information. And I think similar actually for a lot of these family reports of feeling confident in supporting their children's learning in community schools, family reports of feeling welcome, valued, and connected to community schools. So I think some of this, there's some surveying that's done by via MSDE through the LEAs, but some of these need to be tailored more precisely around community schools. And then also added was diversity of voices groups documented in the needs assessment conducted by the community school coordinator. So eventually we'll get the full list of outcome measures to you, but this is an example of 5 additional measures that were added in combination with the initial measures that were recommended by the work group. So overall, this gives you the count. There's 92 measures overall that the combination of the work group and the AIB has recommended that we track. Of those, 20 are output measures, 22 are outcome measures, 32 are data points to track, and then 18 are already required as part of the legislation. And you can see here I guess the positive end is the AIB is contracted with the Maryland longitudinal data system in order to be our partners to help with some of the analysis of the various data points. And so they've gone through and done an initial scan, and based on their initial scan, it's been determined that of the 92 total measures, 57 of them currently have data sources that we can tie directly to the measures and that we are able to track. There are 21 measures that don't currently, it seems as though don't have identified data sources, and then there's 14 that are left that are measures that are still kind of in process to be determined. So, I think the positive end overall is that of the 92 measures, there's close to 60 that there's currently data being collected that will that we can continue to collect in order to identify progress. And one of the things that the MLDS's staff is doing right now is, for those 57 measures, going through and identifying baseline data. So looking over the course of the past 5 years, what the measure has been like statewide, what these measures have been like for each of the LEAs, and then seeing what the kind of trajectory has been over the span of those 5 years. So at least we have the outcome measures work group has some baseline data to go off of, and some initial trend data. And then, over the course of the next several weeks and months, the outcome measures work group will look at those at least those 57 data sources that have baseline data and trend data, to go through and have discussions on what are the appropriate targets that can be set, both for the LEAs, but also statewide. And really trying to find targets that are realistic, but are also ambitious, and also take into account the transformational amount of funding and prioritization that's coming from the blueprint, and how
Hope you're not frozen, but everyone else is.
I can hear you
Oh,
all.
you can hear. Okay.
Yes.
that we,
Jaden, are you?
No, but
Remember Manko?
yeah, sorry.
You froze about 30 seconds ago.
Okay, sorry about
Okay. It's good.
that. Where did I lose you all?
Last
You
part
were-
I heard was about the measures, and what was the good thing about the 57 and how we were working.
Okay, so I think the positive thing is, with 57 measures where we have identified data sources, we're about 2/3 of the way there in terms of being able to track the measures that have been identified by the outcome measures work group as being really, really essential to evaluating the success of the blueprint. And we've contracted with the Maryland longitudinal data system to partner with us in this work. And one of the things that they are working on in the upcoming weeks and months is going through and for those 57 measures that have data sources, going through and figuring out what the baseline data is, what the trend line has been over the past 5 years, so that we have the outcome measures work group has a robust set of information that will allow them to best set both LEA targets and statewide targets that are realistic, but are also ambitious, and also take into account the transformational amount of funding and prioritization that is coming from the blueprint. And, you know, I think in the upcoming weeks and months also continue to have conversations around, especially these measures that have that are without data sources, how many of those or all of those that we want to continue to press forward with, or at some point making a determination that that we want to either de-emphasize or deprioritize those because you know, it is either too cumbersome or costly, or you know, or is going to take an enormous amount of time, energy, or effort in order to stand up data systems to get those data sources. I'll stop sharing and then open it up to questions if there's any.
Do any of the members of the advisory board have? I have a few for you, Joe, but I'll go last.
Yeah, I will try as best I can.
Have any questions for Joe on this? All right, so I'll jump in with a couple. One is in that section where you talked about disaggregating existing data for community schools. Would that be things like, I mean, I would imagine across the pillars, there are outcomes that you're going to be interested in, things like attendance or other kinds of things that may fall into multiple pillars or have, you know, multiple things may have impact on them. Would that be an example of one of those things? And what kind of disaggregation are they thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, you know, and, you know, I think some of this probably to get some specificity better to ask, you know, our implementation director, Emma Pellerin, but, you know, I think based on the conversations, I think some of this is disaggregation around outcome and output measures based on various demographic designations. So based on race, based on special education status, based on free and reduced meal status, to see if there is, you know, if the impacts of the program are being, you know, are supporting populations across the school equally, or if there are, you know, or if there's gaps between how the various groups are either participating or experiencing the intervention.
Got it. And then for some of the pieces that were some of the softer pieces, the feeling pieces, how people feel about things, is there a thought that there would be common measures created across school districts for some of those, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the ongoing discussion, right? Like, and I think each of the LEAs have some form of a survey tool that they give to families annually. So I think some of this is a discussion with you know, really with MSDE and with each of the school systems around the possibility of doing a kind of unified data collection around some questions that are universal across the state that all reflect on particular measures that we are tracking as it relates to the blueprint.
I think those are my main questions. Do you have a sense of the timeline of when we might be able to look at the full list of outcomes, outputs, et cetera, and then distribute that to the advisory board so that we could have that conversation together?
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure on this, but the next outcome measures work group meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 21st. And it is my understanding that by that point, we will have, and if not the full list of all 92 measures, at least like a list of the 57 measures that currently have data sources, and hopefully at that point we'll have at least some initial information around some baseline or trend data for those particular measures. But yeah, I mean, I think I would estimate probably by mid to late November we'll have an initial list in which both the advisory committees and the outcome measures workgroup and the public in general would be able to look at and hopefully provide some insight and weigh in on.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so for our group, let me just make sure nobody else has any questions for Joe about the outcomes and measurement work group, where we are on that right now.
I don't have questions. I would just love to see the measures, because like some of them that they highlighted around volunteering and, as you said, the qualitative side, I want to make sure, especially for community schools, that we're not just looking at it from building their dependency with families coming to community schools, but building their capacity to actually disrupt the thing. So I would love to see a little bit more refinement around some of the measures that are saying, like, the things that the community schools are doing are actually building parents' capacity and their families' capacity, caregivers, to actually like disrupt barriers that face those that are in community schools. So I would love to see the other measures first to see if this is just additional information they want, or if we miss that piece of truly building capacity and not just dependency on the school for resources.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think I'm very hopeful that across all the advisory groups that you all play a pretty essential role in providing feedback, especially around the target. Like, I think it's going to be setting targets that are attainable yet rigorous, I think is a very it's always a challenging process, and trying to kind of thread the needle of like what is that point in which you are you're really like pushing people to do their best for our kids and our communities, but also like understanding all of the nuance and challenges and complexities that come with that, so that the goals that are being set are attainable and realistic. I think it's going to be really challenging, and I think having many different voices and perspectives to inform that and lean in on that, I think will be very critical.
Yes, thank you. That is a great point. A very big distinction between just counting volunteerism or counting people indoors than to really look at the impact of programming on families and parents. So I really appreciate that nuance and distinction. So one of the things I was hoping we would do today as well is set some priorities for our agendas for meetings going forward. So in addition to the outcomes and measurements work group topic, which we will again take up as soon as we have that full list, what are some of the other things that folks are hoping that we will either get information from experts on, because we can invite people to these meetings and have them share with us, or hear that you think that we should be wrestling with as advisory board members as topic areas. And once again, I have a short list, but I want to hear people's thoughts first. Things that you have been either hearing on the ground in your experiences around implementation. I know several members of our advisory board are actually in school districts doing this blueprint work, and it's hard work. And also maybe things that we've covered, in a light touch way, we've just gotten updates on that you might want to dive more deeply, and so that Chandra and I can go back and bring and kind of make a priority list for the next several meetings that we're going to have with the advisory board. So thoughts from advisory board members on this? Oh, it looks like we might have lost Dawn.
Chandra put in, I would love to hear from the EL work group.
Me too. That would be great. And Joe, do you know if that work group is still actively meeting, or if we really need a update on implementation from the recommendations from the EL work group?
I think in the work group has wrapped up, but I think really the group to talk to would be folks at MSDE who are helping to work through the implementation of the recommendations to see if we can get an update on the progress around that. I would say similar to Chandra's suggestion, though, that I do think would be interesting to hear from is there is a newly convened special education work group that is currently in, their discussions are currently in process. And it would be interesting to reach out to Liz Zogby, who I think is their chair, and get an update on like what they've been discussing, if there's ways that the advisory committee can help to contribute or provide some support or insights on their discussions, and just to kind of get an update on what's going on with that.
Yep, that was going to be on my list as well, along with the consortium on coordinated community supports. We had a overview from their perspective very early on, and I know that they have been in the process of running an RFP. I think that there's going to be a call for applicants on the 1st, and applications will be due in December. And so maybe that's something we could hear about early in 2024, of some of the results of that process. The other topic that might be MSDE related, and Joe, maybe you have some sense of this, is with the leadership transition and wherever we are now, what we're going to do next about the proxy for counting poverty. I know that the State Department had put together the neighborhood indicators of poverty research, but the bill related to that in some ways did not pass in the legislature last year. And so we've been doing the layer cake approach, but I was wondering if there are any new thoughts or updates. And I don't know, again, actually, whose authority on which that decision ultimately resides, whether that's a legislative decision, whether that's an executive branch decision, that's an MSDE decision. It seems like in absence of legislation, MSDE has been sort of figuring it out as they go along. And I don't know if you have thoughts about that, Joe. I hate to put you on the spot, but
yeah, no, I think it would be interesting to get an update on it and to see where things lie with that. It's unclear on my end.
okay.
Yeah.
So I have on the list the implementation of the ELL work group recommendations, and that's probably an MSDE report. I have the special education work group from Liz Zogby. I have the consortium on coordinated community supports. And then the update on the neighborhood indicators of poverty work at, again, that would be MSDE. We could probably double these up on a couple of advisory board meetings, but that will take us through, I think, very much the end of the year for sure, and probably into 2024. Yes, Joe.
Yeah, the other group I would maybe be interested in hearing from, and I don't know if you have done this before, but it would be interesting to talk to some community school coordinators
Yep.
that are new community schools as a result of the blueprint. I think particularly even like hearing from some folks in Baltimore County or areas outside of Baltimore City where there's a large community school presence, to get an understanding of like what have been some of the challenges with implementation, just hearing how things have gone, particularly in districts that have a lot less experience with the community school model, and seeing what things look like there. Hearing from community schools in much more rural areas, I think, would be really interesting to see what are some of the different challenges. Because I think oftentimes when I think of community schools, I like have a very kind of like, unfortunately, like a pretty monolithic view in terms of like, they are, urban schools that are neighborhood schools where kids walk to, and that's just not the reality for a lot of community schools that are in areas that are not that I think many of us are less familiar with.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great idea. And we might be able to pair up a community school coordinator with one of the district level implementers. So a lot of the districts have identified, key people to be the sort of organizer, and they have kind of the perspective on the systems piece, whereas the community school coordinator would have the perspective on the school level piece. So that's great. And yes, I think rural community schools unto itself is a whole topic that deserves some attention around how implementation is supported. We do have the two new staff members at MSDE as well, Derek and Dulce Santos, and so they might be interested in that conversation as well, or might be able to identify some good people to participate in that conversation. Well, this is really helpful. It will help us. As I said, I think we have a nice, robust list to get us through future meetings. One thing we do have to wrestle with a little bit is the date of the November meeting. If we were to go forth Thursday, we would be smack dab on Thanksgiving Day. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to be enjoying however they celebrate, or if they do. So we could go to the 5th Thursday, which would be the 30th, or we could go to the 3rd Thursday, which would be the 16th. I don't know if there's some preference to one or the other. Anybody have thoughts on that?
I'm good with either. I would almost say the 30th, just so we have maybe a week from, I think you said the Measures Committee is having something on that 21st that would kind of give us a little bit more time for anything that might come out of their meeting.
Yep, that's
and we don't have to worry about days off that someone might have, but
Yeah.
we'll still have time that following week to review what they share out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
On
this
30th.
is also an AID meeting, so I think I would not be able to participate until after 5
On the 30th?
on the 16th.
On the 16th, okay. Well, that's a whole nother, that's even better because several of us also try to watch the AIB meetings. Yeah.
But the 30th looks pretty open.
I
Okay,
would third the 30th.
okay.
And
That's
Lisa, how
good.
does that look on the AIB calendar?
Yeah, I'm gonna confirm that for you right now because Rachel mentioned that your potential meetings fall on holidays.
Yes.
So right now, in terms of the AIB, you're all clear for the 30th.
Why don't we go ahead and decide December for the same reason?
Yes, because
right now.
December's meeting is on the 28th right now, and that's a
which-
busy travel week.
Yes, our office closes between the holidays up till New Year's. So, and the 21st is not a great day either, I don't think.
Okay.
Because you're just really close up to that holiday, and people tend to be kind of shutting down and moving on.
Okay.
What do people, is the 14th the AIB meeting of that month?
The 14th is the AIB meeting now.
Yes. So
Mhm.
we were thinking about the 7th, but
That
that's
would be rather
soon.
close to the 30th.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe we.
Can we push it to the first week in January?
We can. Yep.
Okay. So the
Uh,
4th
the
or the
4th.
11th?
I'm good with either one. Hope you had your hand up.
I just was saying the 4th. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I think the 4th is
even
good.
if we did 2, because February.
January.
In January, we could work it out maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great idea.
Excellent. All right, so we've solved that problem. We've avoided the holidays. We have a great list of topics that we will work on getting speakers and presentations for. In the meantime, we will get everybody, as soon as they are available, the outcomes and measurements for you to weigh in on and give your thoughts on. And I just really encourage, and if there are people who are watching who have specific topics that they want to see this work group wrestle with, that are different than the ones that we just raised, I think you can reach us through the AIB email. So if you just send an email to the general AIB email, which I'm not sure exactly what that general, maybe Lisa, you know what that general delivery email is. That way we make sure we're hearing from you guys as well, things that we should be covering. And I think with that we are, unless anybody else has other new business, I think we can adjourn for today.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks to everybody who jumped in there with some great content to share. Really appreciate it. And thanks to all who were watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellie.
Oh, AIB at maryland.gov. That's the one.
Thanks, Ellie.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
You're part of the team.
Yes, thank you, Hope. Exciting things that you're already saying. We love it.
Sure.